All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into something really important, early signs of dementia.
Yeah.
I think this is something that a lot of our listeners probably think they know about,
Uh-huh.
but there's always more to learn.
Hmm.
And early detection makes such a difference.
Absolutely.
And, it affects over 944,000 people just in the UK alone.
Yeah. It's a huge, huge number. Much bigger than people tend to think.
Yeah. And you always think about memory loss, right? That's like the classic thing.
Right, yeah.
But what if I told you there are these, other signs that maybe aren't so obvious?
Oh, yeah.
And those are the ones that we really want to get into today.
That we really need to pay attention to because, like you said, everyone thinks, oh, it's memory loss, it's memory loss. But there's actually a lot more to it. There's a lot more subtle things that people miss.
So that's what we're going to unpack with our expert today.
All right, let's do it.
So it's not always memory loss first.
Right, that's a common misconception, yeah.
What else? What else is there?
Well, there can be other symptoms, and they can even be symptoms that kind of show up before memory loss,
Right.
Like they precede it. So it's important to know what to look for.
So what kind of things should we be looking out for? What are those lesser known signs?
Well, I think one really important area to pay attention to is language and communication.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So have you ever, struggled to find the right word?
Oh, yeah.
Or notice that, maybe your speech isn't as fluent as it usually is. Or maybe you know someone who, is having those issues.
Oh, all the time, especially when I'm tired. It's like, What is that word? It's right there. I know it.
Right, exactly. And I mean, we all have those tip of the tongue moments.
Yeah.
But when it becomes kind of a persistent thing, or when it's, noticeably worse, it's like,
Wow.
maybe we should pay attention to this.
But how does that tie into dementia? I'm not quite following the link there.
Okay, so it's actually fascinating. We were talking with Dr. Johannes Uz, who's a GP, and he was explaining that in some cases, for instance, Parkinson's disease dementia, in these cases, it's actually the part of the brain that controls movement that's affected first.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you might see some physical symptoms, which you might talk about later, but it can also impact the brain's ability to access language, express thoughts clearly.
Huh. I never thought about the physical symptoms being a warning sign for something like this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's so subtle, you wouldn't necessarily connect those two things.
It's a really good point, and definitely something to be more aware of for sure.
Absolutely.
So, language, we got to keep our ears open for that.
You can ear out for that, yeah.
What other signs are we missing?
Okay, so another really key area to pay attention to is changes in mood and behavior. So, think about it. Have you noticed anyone, or maybe even yourself, becoming kind of unusually anxious or irritable or just withdrawing from social situations?
Oh, yeah.
So these shifts, especially when they're sudden, out of character, that's when we should really be like, wait a second, what's going on here? This could be an early indicator of something more serious.
Yeah, that is interesting because I have a friend recently that he's always been super social and outgoing, life of the party kind of guy. And he's just become really withdrawn.
Right.
Not really wanting to go out, seems kind of down. I just thought he was, going through a rough patch or something.
Right, and it could be.
But maybe it's something more. Yeah,
it's certainly something to kind of have on your radar.
Yeah, this is definitely giving me a lot to think about.
Good. I mean, that's the point, right?
Okay, so we got the language difficulties, we got mood changes. What else is on the list here?
Okay, so another one is poor judgment. And this can manifest in a few different ways. Are they having trouble managing their finances all of a sudden? Are they neglecting their personal hygiene? Are they making kind of risky decisions that are just totally out of character for them?
So someone who's always been super careful with their money is suddenly blowing it all on, I don't know, lottery tickets or something.
Exactly.
Or we're always been impeccably dressed and now they're kind of, letting things go.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about noticing changes in their typical decision-making pattern.
Okay, so changes in the patterns, that's really what we need to look for.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we got language, mood, judgment. What else?
The last one is, this is a big one, difficulty with routine tasks.
Okay.
So this could be something like, are they getting lost in places that they've known their whole lives? Are they suddenly struggling to follow a recipe that they've made a million times? Forgetting steps in their daily routines that they used to do without even thinking.
It's so easy to just brush these things off as oh, senior moments, or they're just stressed or something like that.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's so tricky.
Yeah. So it's really about like the nuances. You really have to be paying attention to these subtleties.
Absolutely. And early detection it's absolutely crucial here.
Okay.
There's a statistic from the Alzheimer's Society that really, it just kind of blew my mind. Only 1 in 3 people actually seek help within the first month of noticing symptoms.
Oh, wow. I mean, it really highlights the importance of knowing what to look for and then actually taking action when you see it.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't just sit on it. You got to get things moving.
So, okay, let's say somebody is, they're listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm recognizing these things in myself or in a loved one. What should they do? What's the next step?
Okay, the most important thing is to talk to a doctor, a GP, as soon as possible.
Okay.
They can do a proper assessment, rule out any other potential causes for these changes, and if necessary, they can refer you to a specialist for further evaluation, diagnosis.
So the earlier you can get a diagnosis, the better the chances of, managing the symptoms and accessing the support services and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Early intervention is absolutely key here. It can make a world of difference in terms of quality of life, both for the individual and their family.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this has been super insightful.
I'm glad.
But I feel like there's another layer to this whole thing, right? What about prevention?
Yeah.
What can we do to maybe lower our risk of developing dementia in the first place?
That is such a good question. And I think, sometimes people think, oh, it's just going to happen. But the good news is there actually are things you can do that might reduce your risk.
Okay.
It's not just about reacting to symptoms. It's about making proactive lifestyle choices.
I like that, being proactive.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of lifestyle changes are we talking about here?
Well, we're not talking about huge, drastic, crazy changes,
right,
but little healthy habits that you can incorporate into your everyday routine.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Small changes, big impact.
Exactly. So for example, a balanced diet, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, this gives your brain the nutrients it needs to function at its best.
It's like the brain is part of your body, right?
Yeah.
So you got to nourish it just like you would anything else.
Exactly.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. And then regular physical activity is super important too.
Okay. Yeah.
Exercise increases blood flow to the brain. It stimulates the growth of new brain cells. And it even helps clear away, those harmful proteins that can kind of build up over time.
So it's like mental exercise and physical exercise.
Yes, exactly. It's like a 2-for-1 deal.
I like it.
Oh.
Okay. So what else is on the list here?
Well, managing your cholesterol levels and blood pressure is really important too.
Oh.
High levels of those things can damage blood vessels, and that includes the ones in your brain.
Oh, okay.
So that makes your brain more vulnerable to, cognitive decline and things like that.
That's a good reminder to get those things checked regularly.
Yeah, for sure.
Make sure everything's in good shape. Okay, so healthy diet, exercise, keep the blood pressure and cholesterol in check. What else?
And of course, we can't forget about smoking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a major risk factor for so many health problems.
Yeah.
Dementia included. So quitting smoking, it's one of the absolute best things you can do for your brain health.
Okay, so to recap here, we've learned that, early detection is possible. It's not just about memory loss. There are these subtle signs to look out for.
Right.
In ourselves and those we care about.
Absolutely.
And we can actually, do stuff to lower our risk.
Yeah.
Lifestyle changes make a difference.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's empowering.
It is empowering. So now, as you go about your day, I want you to think about this. Think of those early signs we talked about. Are there any subtle changes that you've noticed in yourself, in people you're close to, that maybe deserve a little more attention? And hey, why not share this information with others?
Spread the word.
Spread the word. The more we talk about it, the more we can encourage early intervention and support the people who need it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been awesome having you.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya.